Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have the Fender F-35 back on the bench today. We're going to finish what we started in the first video, which is basically going to string it up. We're going to set it up, and we're going to make all the adjustments necessary to make this thing play and make music again. Let's get to work. So if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. F-35. I don't know what year this is. I could probably check that serial number, but it's usually chasing your tail to try to do that. We're just going to get right to work on it because I really want to finish this guitar and get on to, some other jobs that we have in the shop right now. There's a lot going on. The previous video we did a full cleanup. We dressed, cleaned the neck, cleaned the body, polished the frets. We know that once we get past this point, stringing it, we're going to have to adjust the string height. It was too high for me. It doesn't need to be as high as it was, and I know that we can get some string action there to make it more palatable. It was just too high. So that's where we're going. So strings. This guitar's got some age on it, but I like it a lot. I know this nut was changed. I can tell by the way it's fitted in there, and it's not fitted exact, but I don't think we're going to have any string spacing issues. I am not going to show the entire stringing process because the tuners are so old. I really don't want to put the a power tool on it. I have learned with these kind of tuners that if they're old and they're a little wonky, which these are, they're all working, they're all loose, and they're all doing what they're supposed to do. But if you put a power tool on it, you might get a negative result. And I really don't want him to have to put new tuners on this guitar. So we're going to do them one at a time, and you know where I'm going with this. I'm going to probably not show me twisting all of these by hand. I'm going to show you one. And where is my tuner? Tuner. I'm going to have to pause for a second. I got to find my tuner. Sorry about that. I just came back from the studio. I had the tuner on my bass. The way I do acoustics, or any guitar for that matter, I put the string on, I tune it. Put the next string on, tune that one, go back, check the previous one. And I do that all the way through. When I get to the last one, almost all of them have, stretched a little bit because you keep tuning them as you go along. You're putting more and more tension. So. Yeah. Cut them off. Leave a little bit extra because you never know what you're going to need. You got to pull them off. Usually I can do one of these in like 5 minutes if I'm using my winder, but like I said, I don't want to use the winder on this one. Just don't feel comfortable. I know one of these tuners would give up right in the middle of the process. So we did the E, we're on the A. I had some comments about the videos for minimum requirement or basic tools needed to adjust your own guitar while you're working on it at home, to restring it and make the proper adjustments in a setup. And I got some really positive feedback on it. I lose track or lose sight of the fact that when I'm doing this, I'm working pretty fast sometimes. I try to explain what each tool does and you know, why we do it and why we do things in certain order. But thank you so much, those of you that were watching and responded and made comments. I'm so glad that my video was helpful. I made 2 of them. Minimum requirement tools, or basic tools that you need. So each successive string that you put on, the one before it is going to go a little flat because you're putting a little bit more tension on the neck as you go. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to get the rest of the strings on the guitar, and then we're going to do the setup. Stand by. So we're all strung up, and as per my usual mantra, you never know what you're going to run into. Something isn't reacting the way it should. You hear that? Buzzing. Open E. When you grab the F fret, it stops buzzing. Guess what that is? We can leave it, but it's not in my DNA to do that. What it is the E. I mentioned that this nut was replaced. Well, the low E is cut too low. There is not enough clearance on the first fret. That's why it buzzes in open, but won't buzz when you fret the F, the first fret. It's way too low. That's 18 thousandths, and it's dead, dead, dead. So we have to fill that nut slot. All the rest of them are good. Now, other than that, this is a nice little instrument. A lot of character, but that's unacceptable. So we were almost going to be done, and I wanted to set the truss rod to get some better action, a little bit lower action. I'm missing some tools. Where is my... Oh, there it is. I think the string action is too high overall because I checked it. Yeah, it's at like 8/64, and I know that I can get some of that caught up with a truss rod adjustment. And why do I know that? Because, well, I'll refer to the first video, but I know that there's a banana in this neck. It is too much relief in it. And on an acoustic, being a little straighter is okay. Just to measure it one more time, I know that we're going to be able to get some of that string height down. But before we get into that, yeah, we're going to be able to bring some of that down with truss rod adjustment. And how we do that is quite simply adjust the truss rod. Now, I'm going to assume that this is going to be standard. But we're going to address that low nut slot here in momentarily. But first, I want to see where we're at with truss rod adjustment. It certainly isn't 3/16. Why would it be anything more than that? Can't be. Must be metric. Nah, I would have never guessed that. I would have bet any amount of money that it was standard. Now, sometimes even I fuck up. Yeah, it is 5mm. Okay. I'm going to put a little more straightness in the neck because I want to try to lower the action. And by taking that too much neck relief out will help that. It won't fix it or cure it, but it will help it. So I got a good 1/4 of a turn on it. And I know it's definitely straighter, and that's what I was looking for. But we're still going to have to fix that first nut slot, and I'm going to do that for this customer. Oh yeah, much better. We're down to for about 764s. Yeah, definitely brought it down. You can't go too far with this. I know it helped. We can't get any more lowering action over here. The saddle is already slammed all the way down, and that's just the way this guitar is built. But we did gain some ground, but that's no good. Might be able to get a little more adjustment out of it, but before I do that, I got to stop that. I can't live with that. I can't give this back to my customer with the E buzzing like that open. And that's because this nut was changed and it was cut too low. It's not even the right nut for it, but I know I can fix it and make it play better. So that's what we're going to do. So stand by. I already have the glue out here. We're going to get the bone powder. We're going to fill that in. We're going to reset it and readjust it. Stand by. So how do we do this? I'm going to show you. You can see I pulled the low E off, got it out of the nut slot, and put a little piece of tape there and a little piece of tape there. We're going to use ultra thin CA glue and some bone powder. It's a pretty tricky little operation. You just take a little bit of the white powder. I mean, this is bone powder, at least that's what they call it. And you use the little spoon provided. And what you're going to do is you're going to drop some of that bone powder right down into that nut slot. And that's all we need. And you want to try to get it away from anywhere else, because the next step is to take a syringe with some of this CA glue, and you know, some of you have seen this operation before. I'm going to tell you, be very, 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 very careful of this stuff. If you glue your fingers together with this, it's not like the super glue that you get down at the local box store. You will be in the emergency room getting your fingers unglued. So be super, super, super careful. I take a syringe and put a drop down in there. And then, as quickly as possible, just wipe away any excess. it's pretty thin stuff, and if you get it off of there where you don't want it right away, you'll be all right. But usually it takes more than one application. All you're trying to do is get it on the bone powder. And what it will do is it will bond the bone powder and make it as hard as a rock. And that's what we're looking for. That way I can then re-groove that nut slot for the low E, and stop it from buzzing on the first fret. Yeah, that little bit will do it. I may come back and check it with a pick after about 10 minutes, and if the hardness isn't where I like it, I will probably add just another little microscopic drop of the CA glue with the syringe, and then let it set up and dry for, I let it go for 10 minutes. This stuff is ultra fast, ultra thin, and be super, super careful. You get it on your fingers, you're gonna wish you didn't. It'll ruin your whole weekend. I'm gonna pause while that sets up, and then we're going to check it, and if it hardens up and it looks good, we're going to get out a nut file, slot file, and we're going to cut it down and get this string to stop buzzing in the open position. Stand by. So real time is about 15 minutes. That will harden up pretty quickly, and what we're going to do is cut that slot back down and measure it. And you know you're dry, that it is cured up when you file it a little bit and it's powder coming off. And be careful, because you can go there's a bug flying around. Sorry about that. You can go too far really quickly. So you file a little bit, tension it back up to pitch, and then check your measurement. Many of you have seen this before, this operation, but what we're doing is we're building up the nut slot and then filing it down to where we want it. And then we check it with first 20 thousandths. And that's what it's supposed to sound like. On a guitar, 18 is usually that's about right. And you saw how little I filed that. It was such a small amount. So that nut slot was so far down in there. Let me get in the camera. A quick check is you hold at the 3rd fret and just tap it, and it should have just a little bit of movement. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to stop there, because it's the wrong nut for the guitar, but I think I have it where it's going to be able to be playable. And it's going to be playable for a long time. This stuff with the CA glue, bone powder and CA glue, it's some pretty amazing stuff. It's nuclear. I like that. Let's get it tuned up and see if it's buzzing. Remember, it was buzzing open. Now it's not. And G is only maybe a cent or two sharp, and that's perfectly normal. So get the tape off of there, and hopefully we didn't get too much spill off. We did not. So remember, buzzing. No, it's not. That's our strings are still stretching a little bit. Yeah, she's playable now. I like it. We brought this guitar back to life. Everything's holding tune. I don't like these tuners. I'm going to recommend to the customer that we put new tuners on. They're just too stiff. They've lived their life cycle through, you know, non-use and neglect. They probably are the one, and I told him, I said, this is the one and only thing that probably will not survive. None of them broke, and they're working, but I don't trust them to hold it in tune. They don't operate smoothly, and I'd like to put some new tuners on it. I think that would really be a big improvement on this guitar. Yeah. It's just really quite a sweet instrument. It's got some character. It's got a few flaws, but we're not going to get in a twist over that. This thing is ready to make music, and I am happy that the way it came out. We're going to put the truss rod cover back on. We did achieve lowering the action, and oddly enough, we had to raise the first fret action on the low E because it was buzzing when I restrung it. Everything else looks really stable on this instrument. I'm going to call that a win and a success story, and I hope this customer doesn't do what he was asking me. Should I just get rid of the guitar? No, absolutely not. It's really quite a nice little instrument. You can't replace an instrument like this. It's got some age on it, but it does play really well. It plays really well. I just can't say it enough. Beautiful. I love it. Blackjack with 396 guitars. We brought another old girl back to life. This guitar is ready to make music again. I hope the customer keeps it and passes it down to someone else in his family. He said it's been in his family for a long time, and I'm happy to make sure that I give it back to him in playable, usable, standing tall condition. We'll talk soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe.